Welcome to Bio City Limits, where the newest, hottest artists come to play and bring some of their favorite novel drugs with them. In today's sketch, we'll be reviewing the three main classes of biologic therapy used to treat dermatologic disease. Generally, biologic therapy is any treatment that uses substances from living organisms to treat disease. These medications are engineered to target specific receptors to provide maximum efficacy with minimal adverse effects. They often modulate the immune system as part of their drug response. For this reason, all patients on biologics are at risk for infection, specifically tuberculosis. Patients should be screened for TB and other active infections, including hepatitis and HIV, before starting biologic therapy. We will represent all of these pathogens and this infection risk with the cool light fixtures at the top of our show. These might go viral as the night goes on. With that in mind, I hope you enjoy the show because the tickets aren't cheap, with the prices starting at thousands of dollars per dose and ranging to more than $50,000 per month. First, we will introduce you to the key players at BioCity Limits before going over the reactions that they induce in their adoring fans. I can't wait to see who's first on our list. Tonight's lineup is supposed to be amazing. I heard that the opener for this event is a little bit more mature. First, it looks like we have the TNF alpha inhibitors. Have you heard of them? Before I introduce you to the stars, let's put up a barricade to prevent the crowd from inflicting their incitement onto our stars. Remicade, also called infliximab, is the first biologic in this sketch. Like the other drugs we're reviewing, it's FDA indicated for psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis, which we will represent with the ripped pants on this bouncer that all the kids seem to be wearing these days. Now, let's move on to the real star. It looks like Adele is up first. I heard she likes to warm the crowd up with a sense of humor. Did you hear about her awful sunburn? She detailed her experience in her new song, Aloe from the Other Side. It looks like she's looking beautiful and tan now in her emerald dress. Adalimumab, also called Humira, is used in psoriasis, psoriatic arthritis, nail psoriasis, and hidradenitis suppurativa. We will represent adalimumab's indications for nail changes with Adele's crazy shows. Gosh, she didn't have to work that hard to hide her nails. Adalimumab's use in HS will be represented by these high shine sunglasses. Did you notice how tan she looks in her emerald dress? Let's use the word tan and emerald to make us think of etanercept, also called emerald. Imbral. This is the last drug of the TNF alphas, and it is also used to treat psoriatic arthritis and psoriasis in children as young as 4 years old. Before we move to the next act, let's check in with the crowd. They seem to be loving the show so far. It looks a little hot and crowded down there, though. One of our guests seems to have sweated through his shirt, and it looks vaguely liver-shaped. TNF alpha inhibitors are contraindicated in heart and liver failure. This is represented by our heart-throwing and sweaty fans. In addition to infection, it is important to monitor patients treated with TNF alpha inhibitors for SLE-like reactions, infusion reactions, injection site reactions, demyelinating disease, and malignancy. We will represent malignancy with our crab sticker. It looks like someone dropped it off on their way in. Well, that was fun. I can't wait for our next act. I think this one is meant for a younger crowd, maybe closer to the age of 17. This next act is for our IL-17 inhibitors. The second act will start right after a quick costume change. Secukinumab, also called Cosentyx, is the first of our IL-17 inhibitors. It is used for plaque psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis in children and adults, which you can remember from Billy's young age. Oh, look, here she comes now. Wait, oh my gosh, look at that tall guy sneaking up to give her an icky kiss. That bro thought he was being slick, but he's no match for this security. Ixekizumab, also called Taltz, is a biologic approved for children over the age of 6 with psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis. Brodulumab, also called Siliq, is also approved for psoriasis. This is one of the least used biologics because it requires registration in a REMS program secondary to its association with depression and suicide. You can remember this based on Billy's vibes alone. Oof, how are you doing after that incident? Traumatized? The crowd seems to be doing okay. There are less contraindications and side effects for IL-17 inhibitors than for our TNF alpha inhibitors. Things to remember for these patients include TB, infection, and suicide monitoring. Importantly, there's no cancer crab in this section of the crowd. This is because IL-17 inhibitors haven't been associated with cancer. Okay, this will be fast. You stay here, and I'll see if I can find our next stellar performer. Ustekinumab, also called Stelara, is in a class of its own as an IL-12 and IL-23 inhibitor. We will represent this drug with our security officer watching from the side of the stage for any other rowdy fans. Do you notice his ripped jeans and how he looks a little younger? That's because ustekinumab, or Stelara, is approved for psoriatic arthritis and psoriasis in children as young as 6 years of age. What's that behind him? Our cancer crab? Ustekinumab is associated with posterior leukoencephalopathy and cancer in some unlucky patients. This is represented by the cancer crab behind our security guard. Oof, glad I found you again. Well, it looks like the last act has finally arrived. Now this one is finally more my speed. Audience approved by 23-year-olds everywhere. This next performer represents our IL-23 inhibitors, the newest class of biologic therapies here at BioCity Limits. Is the anticipation killing you? The man who makes a new album every year, but somehow they all sound the same. It's Drake lighting up the stage. Tildrakizumab, also called Lumia, is our hottest and newest drug currently only approved for psoriasis. What is Drake doing now? Well, it looks like he's heading up to the sky on some kind of riser. Risankizumab, also called Skyrizi, is an IL-23 inhibitor approved for psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis. Yikes! Does he look a bit scared to you? It seems to me like he's trembling and gesturing for help. Maybe the riser wasn't the best idea. Gasolkamab, also called Tremfya, is the last drug in this sketch. Like risankizumab, it is approved for psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis. Let's check back in with the crowd. It looks like it's still hot and crowded down there, with new sweat spots emerging among our fans and another crab cancer sticker on Drake's audience. Patients starting IL-23 inhibitors should be screened for cancer and hepatotoxicity before starting these drugs and monitored appropriately while taking these medications. Wow, BioCity Lights is quite the show. Before we leave, let's review the highlights of tonight's lineup. For our TNF alpha inhibitors, we started off with a Remicade barricade to prevent the crowd from inflicting too much excitement onto our stars. Then we saw humorous Adele representing adalimumab or Humira. She looked super tan in her emerald dress, reminding us of etanercept, also known as Enbrel. These drugs can be used in psoriasis, psoriatic arthritis, and HS, but you have to watch out for our cancer, heart failure, and liver disease symbols. When we saw our IL-17 inhibitors in our second set after a quick costume change, this reminded us of secukinumab, also called Cosentyx. In this set, a tall guy snuck onto the stage to greet Billy with an icky kiss. That bro really thought he was being slick. Remember that this reminds us of ixekizumab, also called Taltz, and brodulumab, also called Siliq. These drugs can be used in children with psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis, but require special attention to emotional changes and infection. I don't blame them. I'd have emotional changes too. Third, you stayed in the crowd while we waited for our final stellar act. Here is where you met istukizumab, also called Stelara. This was our IL-12 and 23 inhibitor that can treat pediatric psoriatic arthritis and psoriasis, but is associated with malignancy and posterior leukoencephalopathy. Lastly, we met the IL-23 inhibitors and watched Drake light up the stage. This is where we learned about tildrakizumab, also called Lumia. We watched Drake rise to the sky before he started trembling and gesturing for help. This is where we learned about risankizumab, aka Skyrizi, and guselkumab, also called Tremfya. These drugs are also used for psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis, but require screening for cancer and hepatotoxicity. Oof, well, I don't know about you, but I had a great time. I'll see you back at BioCity Limits next year. And don't forget, once you use a drug once, you have to stick to it regularly. One of the final and most important facts about our biologic therapies is their immunogenicity. So once you start a biologic that works, you need to keep using it forever and ever and ever and ever.